Hi and welcome! Today we're going to take a look at a British premium tank with a battle rating of 10.7. As usual, we'll start with the basic stats, and then I'll give you my personal thoughts on how this vehicle performs in actual matches. Its top speed going forward is only 56 kilometers per hour, which is pretty underwhelming. Most of the time, you're the slowest tank on the battlefield. However, the reverse speed is a solid 37 kilometers per hour, which is actually quite decent. This means you'll have no trouble peeking out, firing a shot, and quickly backing into cover, a classic shoot-and-scoot move. That said, you have to understand that due to the tank's heavy weight and mediocre engine, acceleration suffers, and don't even get me started on close quarters. Trying to maneuver in tight spaces can feel like driving a fridge through mud. Also, I'm sure you're all familiar with Snail's love for oversized, borderline unplayable maps. Thanks to that, we usually spend 25 to 30 seconds more than fast tanks just to reach the center of the map. Oh, and in case you didn't know, there's something called cruise control in the game. You can bind a key for it, and after tapping it a couple times until you see max in the bottom left corner, you can go make yourself a cup of tea or crack open a stronger drink depending on how the last match went. Your tank will happily drive itself across the map. You're welcome. The turret rotation speed is 22 degrees per second horizontally and 16 degrees vertically when using a stock crew. Once you upgrade to an expert crew, those values go up to 29 degrees horizontal and 21 vertical. And with an ace crew, you'll get 31 degrees per second horizontally and 22.5 vertically. For context, the top-end values for main battle tanks in War Thunder cap out at around 40 degrees per second, both horizontally and vertically. So this tank's turret traverse is pretty average overall. That said, in actual gameplay, I rarely found myself struggling to get the gun on target in time, so I'd say the aiming speed is totally serviceable. The reload time on this tank is 6.5 seconds with a stock crew. With an expert crew, it drops to 5.3 seconds, and with an ace crew, you're looking at a flat 5-second reload, which sounds amazing on paper. But there's a catch that a lot of players overlook. The first stage ammo rack only holds 4 rounds. That means you only get 5 fast shots at that nice 5-second reload speed. After that, your reload time jumps up to nearly 7 seconds. Sure, your loader will gradually refill the first stage rack while you're not firing, but let's be honest, in close quarters engagements, that delay can cost you. More often than not, you'll find yourself out of first stage ammo right in the middle of a duel, and that longer reload will lose you the fight against someone with a consistently faster reload. The gun's vertical aiming angles are excellent. It can depress down to 10 degrees. That means you can comfortably play from top-tier hull-down positions without worrying that your gun will be pointing at the sky when you need it most. Those 10 degrees of gun depression are a huge advantage, but only if you know how to use them. You really need to understand map positions to make the most of it. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to check out the playlist with map guides and the one with strong positions. I promise you'll find a ton of useful info that'll help you grind much faster in War Thunder. Our main round, the one you'll be using most of the time, is pretty powerful, with a maximum penetration of 471 millimeters. That's a serious number. For comparison, the Leopard at the same battle rating gets a shell that pens 408 millimeters, and the Abrams only gets 372 millimeters of pen. So yeah, this round hits hard. Honestly, I have no real complaints about it overall. That said, while recording clips for this video, I actually had a moment where I shoved my gun right into an enemy's turret and still couldn't kill him. Check this out. By the way, just look at how awful the reload gets on this tank once you're out of first stage ammo. It's honestly painful to watch. Sadly, thanks to my teammate who helped me deal with this T-80, and by helped, I mean blatantly kill-stole it, We'll never know how long I would have had to keep shooting at this poor guy. Still, I think it turned out to be a pretty funny moment. We also get access to a high-explosive squash head shell, which can be useful against lightly armored targets, or in very rare cases, it might even one-shot an enemy tank if you manage to hit something like the optics mounted on top of the turret. I don't usually bring many of these, since most of the time they serve as a kind of protective talisman meant to shield me from enemy aircraft. Does it work? Honestly, not really. We also have the option to fire smoke shells. I usually carry just one to block vision on a key choke point if needed. Now listen up, there's one rule when it comes to using smoke shells. Only use them if you're absolutely sure you're not going to screw over your own team. If you don't have a clear purpose for dropping smoke, just don't. There's nothing worse than someone who fills half the map with smoke thinking they're being helpful. So if you don't want angry teammates messaging you after the match, better keep those smoke rounds in reserve. There are also a few side notes you should know before buying this tank. First, we don't get a heavy machine gun. That means any big fences or obstacles will have to be broken using your hull, which slows you down, and considering our mobility isn't great to begin with, that's a bit annoying. The zoom on this tank is really solid. At minimum magnification, you get a great panoramic view, and that's a big plus. Anyone who's played the Japanese premium MBT knows exactly what I'm talking about. As for the gunner's sight, it has thermal optics, but the image quality is pretty bad. Personally, I can't stand looking through it for more than a few seconds. And if you're one of those players who uses the commander's view instead of binoculars, bad news. The commander optic doesn't have thermals, only night vision. We've got 10 smoke grenades. Since they fire in pairs, that gives you 5 uses total, which is honestly enough for most situations. But here's the real highlight, the engine smoke generation system. This is an absolute game changer for close quarters fights, and can often help you win one-on-one duels. And just in case you didn't know, this system creates a smoke screen that you can see through using thermals. I don't know why, but it feels like half the enemy players either don't know how it works, or just haven't unlocked thermals yet. In any case, this tool helps you get extra kills and speeds up your grind. Don't forget to use it. It's a seriously underrated feature. Before we move on, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for watching this video. I really appreciate the time you spend here, and the comments you leave mean a lot to me. If I've missed something important or got anything wrong, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. Feedback is always welcome, and I'm always learning too. And of course, a huge thank you to the absolute legends who hit that join button and became channel members. Your support truly means a lot, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. Thank you. Now let's talk about armor. Although, to be honest, there's not much to talk about because we pretty much don't have any. The lower glacis is easily penetrated even by low-pen shells. There's also a driver's optics port right on the hull. If someone hits it, it can result in a full one-shot. Up on the turret, we've got the commander's optics, and guess what? People will be shooting at that too. Most of the time, it just knocks out the commander, but hey, this is War Thunder. If the shell ricochets off the optics and into the crew compartment, wiping out your entire crew, don't be surprised. The only part of the tank that can actually take a hit is the turret, and even then don't expect much protection. If the shell fired at you has over 500 millimeters of penetration, your armor might as well not exist. The one thing that occasionally saves you is having 4 crew members. Sometimes the enemy shot only takes out 1 or 2 guys instead of everyone, and you live to fight another second. But here's the real problem. Right in the center of your hull, you've got propellant charges. You can't remove them, and if someone hits them, boom, you're done. And the thing that annoys me the most, there are shells stored in the turret, right next to the loader. Thankfully, they don't detonate when hit. But every time they get damaged, you lose your loader and your entire first-stage ammo rack. At that point, you basically turn into the Death Star. And I don't mean in terms of firepower, I mean your reload rate becomes 1 shot every 4 Star Wars movies. Right now, the battle rating system feels incredibly unfair, at least when it comes to modern vehicles. The problem is, most of the time you'll be fighting against 11.7 tanks, and this isn't just about this specific vehicle. It applies to pretty much everything sitting at 10.7. Honestly, I can't even remember the last time I saw this tank spawn for just 150 spawn points. Why? Because there are almost no popular lineups at 9.7 or 10.0, so we constantly end up in matches against vehicles that treat our armor like paper. Personally, I don't really mind. I've gotten used to it and I know how to play around it. But that's just my take. How easy or hard it'll be for you to play a 10.7 tank against 11.7 lineups, I can't say. If we look at this tank in a vacuum, ignoring the matchmaking issue I just mentioned, the Challenger is a very average vehicle, playable, but not amazing. In this game, we fight enemy tanks, enemy aircraft, awful map design, and if you're playing a T-72, you're also fighting your own tank. The Challenger? Not bad. But the biggest challenge for the Challenger is large maps. One time I was driving to the center of the map, and I got hungry. My wife brought me food. The only issue is, I wasn't married when the match started. I hope it's clear by now that due to the low mobility, this tank isn't great for flanking or brawling in the middle of the map. And if you're a new player who rushes to cap a point just to get some kind of reward, this tank is definitely not for you. On the other hand, if you play smart and carefully and take up a strong position, you can rack up a solid number of kills. By the way, I've got a friend who's a huge fan of British tanks. The thing is, he has a problem. Whenever he plays fast vehicles, he just has to push forward, and then he dies. But British tanks, they taught him patience. They taught him not to charge blindly, but to pick a spot and just fish for targets. Honestly, I don't think there's a real alternative if you want to fully grind out the British ground tree. For me, the gameplay feels a bit too slow, but still, every session I end up playing 5, sometimes even 10 matches in this thing. Hopefully, after watching this video, you'll be able to decide for yourself whether this tank is worth your money. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.